Greetings to everyone. I'm Dr. Shraddha, Senior Lecturer from the Department of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery, Sri Siddhartha Dental College. My topic for today is implant, and these are my contents. To introduce, implants are aims to restore normal function, comfort, aesthetics, and speech. Mostly because of missing teeth, they replace the root form, hence providing a chance for rehabilitation. To define, dental implant is a biological or an alloplastic material surgically inserted into soft or hard tissue of the mouth for functional or cosmetic purpose, given by Carl Misch. And oral implantology, it is a science and discipline concerned with diagnosis, design, insertion, restoration and management of alloplastic or autogenous oral structures to restore the loss of contour, comfort, function, aesthetic, speech, or health of the partially or completely edentulous patient. What are the ideal properties of implant? Implants are supposed to be non-allergic, non-carcinogenic, should be sterilizable, should be resistant to strain, can be placed with initial stability, and it should be compatible with both hard and soft tissues. The parts of the implant. This is the implant which is inserted into the bone. This is an abutment, this is a crown. We also have something called as the cover screw, which is screwed into the implant after the initial surgery. We have healing abutment, which is inserted during the second stage. We have the lab analog, which replicates the implant in the cast. We have impression coping, be it open tray or closed tray. To classify the implant systems, we have endosteal implants, transosteal implants, subosteal implants, and other implants and tissue-guided regeneration. We have endosteal implants, we have root form and plate form. We have transosteal implants which go through and through both the cortices. We have subperiosteal implants which sits on the periosteum. We have mucosal inserts which help in overdentures to help in more retention. We have basal implants, also known as transosteal implants. Like the conventional implants engages only one cortice, the basal implant engages both the cortices. To also classify implant systems based on the coatings, we have hydroxyapatite coating, magnesium coating, graphene coating, growth factors, extracellular matrix protein. We have antibiotic coatings like antibiotics, antimicrobial peptides, metal elements, and polysaccharides. We have, based on the retention of prostheses, we have removable, we have fixed. Based on function, we have cosmetic, semi-functional, and functional. So how do we evaluate and select the patient? General health of the patient and history and local factors. General health, we have most commonly compromised states like diabetes mellitus, hypertension, blood thinners, kidney ailments, patients who have undergone radiotherapy and chemotherapy. Absolute contraindications will be osteopathies, renal insufficiencies, liver diseases, patients who have had radiopathy treatment or are on bisphosphonates. Patients who consume alcohol or smoke or chew tobacco are definitely pose a trouble for osseointegration and implant placement. Oral hygiene of the patient, bruxism, and history why the patient lost tooth is also important for us to know. Once we've taken the history, it is important for us to examine the hard tissue. As given by the classification by Misch in 1990, we have D1, which is thick, dense, compact bone, mostly in the anterior of the atropic edentulous mandible. We have D2, thick, porous, compact bone with coarse trabecular bone, mostly in the posterior segment of the mandibular bone. We have D3, thin, porous bone, mostly seen in the posterior segment of the maxilla. We have D4, fine trabecular bone, mostly seen in the anterior maxilla and maxillary tuberosity. This is to summarize where we see what? We see D1, D2 here, D2, D3 in the posterior mandible, D2, D3 in the anterior maxilla, D3, D4 in the posterior maxilla. Then we have quantitative analysis, how much of the bone is available. We have buccolingual width, mesodistal width, height, angulation in crown to implant ratio. How do we get the buccolingual width? We do something called as ridge mapping. We map the ridge, we measure it, and then we get to know the buccolingual width. And as a rule we follow is for mesodistal distance between the implant and the natural tooth, we should maintain at least 1.5 to 2 mm. Between two implants, it is advisable to maintain at least 3 mm to 4 mm distance to avoid further complications. And from the buccal plate, you need at least 0.5 mm. From the lingual plate, you need at least 1 mm. From the sinus and the nasal cavity, 1 mm. Incisive canal, we generally avoid the incisive canal. From the mental nerve, at least 5 mm. From the inferior border, 1 mm. And the preferable desired crown to implant ratio is 1:2, but at least 1:1 is minimum required. So now to examine the soft tissue, we have the quantitative analysis where we see the periodontal biotyping, where we have biotype 1 and 2, where 1 is thin and scalloped with gingival thickness less than 1.5 mm, and biotype 2 is thick and flat with gingival thickness greater than 2 mm. For a thin biotype 1, the implant placed in the site is more technique sensitive and probability of gingival recession is more as compared to biotype 2. And how do we measure all this? We have direct probe method, probe transparency method, oral photography, ultrasonic devices, CBCT, etc. So also it is important for us to do the blood investigations of random blood sugar because it tells us the healing capacity of the patient. We also have international normalized ratio, bleeding time and clotting time to tell us the natural healing process. Then radiographic evaluation, we have intraoral periapical radiographs to tell us the mesodistal width and the height of the implant. We have occlusal radiographs to give us a 3D view and the relation between each implant. Then we have OPG to see the jaw relation and the spatial extent of all the implants that we have placed. But in some cases, the midline is not easily visualized. Hence, we have lateral ceph, which will give us a clear picture of the midline structures. Then we have gold standard, the CBCT, where we have each section and we can see the height and the width in that particular section. So now that we know, we've seen the health of the patient and the qualitative analysis of the both hard tissue and soft tissue, we go to the procedure. The first thing we have is a surgical procedure. Surgical procedure starts with a mid-crestal incision. Then there is a reflection of the soft tissues. Then you flatten the ridge and then you start with your pilot drill. The pilot drill is basically to mark the position of where you want the implant to be there. You start with your pilot drill, the 2 mm drill, all the lancet drill. Then you check the depth gauge. You use a paralleling pin to check if it's proper. Then you do the sequential drillings and finally you place the implant. The implant might be covered using a healing cap which is exposed to the oral cavity or a cover screw which is covered under the soft tissues. If you place the implant immediately during the tooth extraction, it's called immediate implant. Anything before 2 months is called immediate delayed. Within 6 months is called delayed. Anything after 6 months is called late. So post-operative care, we take a radiograph to visualize the placement of the implant. We give them antibiotics and analgesics, and patient should be placed on 0.12% chlorhexidine gluconate to avoid any further infections and follow up weekly so that the wound healing is complete. What are the complications that we can see? In early stage, we can see bleeding, cortical plate fracture, dehiscence, perforation and mandibular fractures. We can also see edema, infection, ecchymosis, flap dehiscence and sensory disturbances. In the late stages, we can see maxillary sinusitis, failed osseointegration, bony defects and periapical implant lesion. Then coming to the most important point of osseointegration. What is osseointegration? Os means bone, integration means the state of being combined to a complete whole. So osseointegration can be defined by Breinemark as a direct and structural and functional connection between ordered living bone and surface of the load carrying implant. So how does the osseointegration happen? The physiology of osseointegration. It happens in 3 steps. We have initial tissue response to implantation. We have peri-implant osteogenesis and we have peri-implant bone remodeling. In the initial response, you have trauma of the implant placement because of which growth factors are released, which causes a blood clot. The blood clot acts as a scaffold for migration of the leukocytes, the osteoblasts, everything, which will then help in the formation of the woven bone in the peri-implant osteogenesis phase. The woven bone is a form which is irregular and has low architecture and low mechanical competence, but it is rapidly formed. Then it will keep remodeling for the rest of the life into strong trabecular bone. What can happen if this osseointegration doesn't happen? It is called the failure because of decreased number of osteoclast cells or increased osteoclastic activity, imbalance between the anabolic and the catabolic cells, and the micromotion of the implant during the healing. And how do we check for osseointegration? We have clinical mobility test, we have radiological imaging, and we have resonance frequency analysis, or also known as RFA. So the factors that affects the osseointegration are the implant factors are design, shape, length, diameter, the surface characteristics. The host factors are implant bed, the bone, the systemic illness, the medicines that they are taking, or any local radiotherapy. Other factors such as during the surgical procedures are not enough coolant that is placed, no enough irrigation, low speed, or undisturbed healing time is not provided. That will be the reason. So once the implant is placed surgically and osseointegration happens, we have stage 2. After minimum of 3 months, we have stage 2. We all know that the implant will be covered with the soft tissue. The stage 2 aims in uncovering the implant from the cover screw and placing of the healing cap, which is exposed to the oral cavity, which helps in gingival healing. Then once the gingiva is healed for approximately 1 week, we have the prosthetic phase. We have impressions, we have jig trial, we have metal trial, and the final processes. In impression, we have open tray impression where the coping is exposed outside the tray, and we unscrew the healing cap, we place the open tray coping, we place the impression, soft body impression, light body impression, and then we place the tray, we take the impression, we unscrew the coping, and the coping comes with the tray. Or if it is closed tray impression, unscrew the healing cap, place the coping, take the impression, and it doesn't come out with the impression, we have to insert the impression later on. Then once the impression is taken and sent to the lab, the lab gives us something called as the jig trial, which will ensure the position of the implant in the cast is same as the position in the mouth, which is necessary for us to do a jig trial. In case of multiple implants, the implants are made parallel to each other and a jig is formed. In case of single implant, the adjacent teeth is taken as a reference. We then have a cemented crown and a screw retained crown for the final prosthesis. What are the adjuvant surgical methods that we have? We have bone grafting materials, we have particular or we have block grafts taken autogenously or alloplastic materials. We have ridge split technique. We have sinus floor elevation, direct or indirect. Then we have recent concepts such as zygomatic implants, which the zygomatic bone is used for anchorage in case of edentulous maxilla or reconstructed maxillas. We have pterygoid implants because the pterygoid bone is the cortical bone to engage the pterygoid bone. That's how it is engaged, the pterygoid implant. Then we have All-on-4 to rehabilitate completely edentulous mandible or maxilla. So to summarize, the implants have revolutionized the reconstruction efforts in head and neck region with adjuvant osseointegrated devices. All these require prior evaluation to systemic limiting factors and local conditions for a successful outcome. These are my references. Thank you.